Welcome to this week's Torah portion. This week we have the Torah portion of Shemot, which in Hebrew means the names. And it is the first Torah portion of the second book of the 5 books of Moses, the book of Exodus. This week in the Torah we learn how the Jews had many children. They were multiplying, and Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, started to get nervous. Way too many Jews, and he ordered the Jews to be slaves. Eventually, he saw in the stargazers that there would be a redeemer born to the Jewish people. It would be a boy. So he ordered the midwives, 2 Jewish midwives, Shifra and Pua, to kill all the boys by birth. But this didn't work. And the midwife says the Jews, they just deliver the babies before we arrive. So Pharaoh ordered all the Jewish boys should be thrown into the Nile River. Now, one of these midwives was the daughter of Levi, one of the 12 tribes of Jacob, Israel. She had a son with her husband Amram. And when the son was born, they were scared that they would have to throw the boy into the Nile. So they put the boy into a basket and let it flow down the river. And Pharaoh's stargazers saw that the boy was indeed, this redeemer was born, but he was in the river. So Pharaoh called off the decree. As the boy is floating down the river and his sister Miriam is watching from the reeds, Pharaoh's daughter Batya is coming to bathe with her maids, and she sees a beautiful little boy in a basket floating down the river. So she brings the boy home to raise him in the palace. Moses, young Moses, a little boy, is sitting on Pharaoh's lap, and he takes the crown off of Pharaoh's head and puts it on his own. Right away, Pharaoh's advisors get nervous. They say, maybe this is the boy. This is the prophecy to lead the Jews out of Egypt, out of our slavery. So they make a test. They bring a bowl of gold, which is, very dull, not sparkly, and then a shiny, glowy bowl of coals, hot coals. And they say if he chooses the coals, he's just a regular kid. But if he chooses the gold and he's not attracted to the shiny, bright coals, that means that there's something special about him and he should be put to death. So Moses picks the coals, but it was so hot that he burnt his fingers, and he right away touched his mouth to cool his fingers down, and he burnt his tongue. And from that day on, Moses spoke with a heavy lisp. After Moses becomes a young adult, he goes out into Egypt roaming the streets, and he sees how terribly the Jews are being treated. One Egyptian is beating a Jewish slave. And Moses says one of God's names and kills this Jewish person. The next day, there's 2 Jews that he sees fighting. And he says, why are you guys hitting each other? Why are you acting evil and fighting and hitting? So they turn to him and they say, are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian the other day? And right away, news started to spread throughout Egypt that Moses killed an Egyptian officer. So Moses had to flee. He fled Egypt. He went to a place called Midian. Over there, he helped save some young girls getting water for their sheep. And they brought him home. These girls were the daughters of the high priest of Midian, like the Pope. His name was Jethro. Moses ended up marrying one of his daughters, Zipporah, and he became a shepherd for his father-in-law, very similar to his great-grandfather Jacob. Now, one of the sheep runs astray, and Moses is looking for the sheep, and he sees a burning bush. And a voice from God comes out and says, please take off your sandals. You're in a holy place. And God tells Moses, I need you to go back to Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go so they can serve me. They can be free and serve me. Moses goes to Egypt, and Aaron, his brother, is his spokesperson because Moses has a lisp. He gathers the elders of Egypt, and he tells them the time has come that we will be redeemed from this slavery in Egypt. Moses goes to Pharaoh, but to no avail, and Pharaoh just makes things even harder for the Jews. So Moses cries to God, why have you done evil to this people? And you sent me here, just made it worse for them. And God said, don't worry, Moses. Very, very soon, I will redeem the Jewish people from slavery with big miracles. And this is how we end this week's Torah portion. So it's the beginning, the long journey of the Exodus of Egypt. One small lesson we can learn from this week's Torah portion is that sometimes we don't have a straight path. We don't have a straight path in life to where we want to get. The Redeemer of the Jewish people was raised in the castle, in the palace of Pharaoh. So sometimes our Savior, sometimes our blessing can come from unexpected places and very unique paths. So we shouldn't say, oh, I don't want to take assist from this location. I don't want to hear this opinion. I have my path, my straight path, and that's it. We have to know that God has infinite ways of sending us blessing, sending us salvation, and giving us everything that we need. So all we have to do is open ourselves up to take that in, taking the inspiration from Moses, and pray to God that we be redeemed from the current exile and the current evil in the world. Shalom, everyone. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful week.